Today, we are chatting with creative chameleon Basil Kincaid, who gets all the credit for the mesmerizing quilted masterpiece we featured within the January-February issue of Luxe, which is on newsstands now. Not only is he wildly talented, but his positive energy is quite contagious. Hi, Basil, and welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sarah. It's great to connect with you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for jumping on today. Before we dive into some of this incredible work that you're doing that we can see behind you, I just wanted you to give us a chance to tell the viewers like your background. What do you do? Where are you based? What do you make?
Yeah. I'm Basil Kincaid from St. Louis, Missouri. Born and raised there. I'm currently in Ghana. So I have studio here. I work between here and St. Louis. And what do I do is a great question. I do a number of things. I guess as far as art, I started drawing. That was my first love. Then I got into painting in college. Let's see, 5 years ago, I came to Ghana for the first time and I was doing large scale collage works. But that time period influenced me to dig into my family history. And that's what got me interested in quilting. So when I came back in 2016, I started just doing a lot more familial research. And I always remembered my grandmother making quilts, but I didn't realize that it was just a multi-generational tradition that, until my generation was unbroken. So I'm carrying on the family art and doing it in my own way.
These are all things that I can't wait to dive into. I know you said that you had a residency there years ago and you're back now. So clearly the country is a big influence for you. How has that residency impacted your work? You said that it was there that you.
So this residency is through a Boston-based organization called Arts Connect International. And I mean, honestly, I feel like they're the springboard for my career. So it's a year-long residency, and the first 3 months are an entrepreneurial component where you're learning about how to operate yourself as a business and how to, build your brand as an entrepreneur and tangible ways to use your art to support yourself. So that was a really fundamental experience for me. And then it had a 9 month abroad component. Before I came, I applied with a body of work that I made with things that I found on the street in St. Louis. And I wanted to continue that work here using material that I found that had some significance to everyday life. That time period, I was using prepaid phone cards. You don't really see them as much anymore. So I would collect those and then make large scale collages with those and some sculptures too. But that time period, I made some really valuable relationships that I maintained till now, and that made it possible for me to set up this studio and return to continue my quilting work. And so now here, I'm fusing, my own art styles. Like this work behind me is inspired by a drawing that I made, and so I'm trying to unite my drawing, collage, and quilting techniques into this new body of work.
So clearly the country has been a big influence for you, and you're back there, and we can only imagine what's going to come out of this, this visit this year. But I would love to talk about your family, and particularly the women in your family who inspired you to look into traditions from the past. Can you
Yeah,
talk about that connection between your family and their crafts and the art that you're creating in the present day?
absolutely. So I didn't really realize how deep it got. I at first my entry point was just my grandmother, my dad's mom, Eugenia, um, and they were farming folks. My grandparents owned a farm, and so every summer I would go down and spend time on the family farm, and I just noticed how my grandmother might be working on something by herself in the house, but the group of women would get together and be quilting together, and it was a communal, community-based practice. So like they may, work on their individual quilts, by themselves, and then when it came time to do the finishing, where the actual quilting is when you combine all three layers. They would do that communally. They'd help each other so that would go faster. The more questions I asked, the more I learned, and I came to find out that my grandmother and some of her sisters, they actually built like maybe factory is the right word. So they were making these quilts that um, became recognized as like emblematic of basically Arkansas style. And so they got for several years, they got these government contracts to make, historical quilts that were representative of Arkansas, similar to what you see here, this kind of improvisational quilt making. But a lot of those women were innovators. They were making up their own styles. So yeah, my great aunt Vera, I think she was the leader of this quilt collective. And then, I just got deeper into asking questions and realized that, there's been an unbroken link for, at least 7 generations. So that's hundreds of years going back where, these women are teaching each other and passing down the tradition from mother to daughter and from sister to sister, down through until we get to the present day. And so I just feel honored to be able to continue that. And it was something that like it made me feel a lot more belonging in the sense of like creating within a canon that I feel ownership in. Like studying art in school, I always kind of felt like an outsider. So much of the curriculum was based on, basically what old white men, what they had made and what was important to them. I didn't really see myself reflected in that space. And so it gave me a lot of encouragement to position myself within something that's intrinsic to me and my family. And then now to be able to, take it to the world stage is a pleasure of mine. And I'm thankful that I get to, carry the torch.
Well, I'm sure that those generations of women, who came before you would be so proud to see that you're carrying it on and through this, modern lens, which, but still recognizes the artistry and the technique that you learned that was passed down. It struck me that you said, you mentioned like belonging and, when you were creating with your family or learning those skills from your family, which, brings me to a point that I really wanted to talk about when we spoke earlier, a couple months ago, when we first started working on this magazine page, you talked about identity and how creating as a way for you to search for self-understanding. Can you expand on that for us a bit? Understanding your heritage and also understanding like, you as a Black man in today's culture.
Yeah. You know, so much gets projected onto us that for me, the art is a place where I can kind of peel the layers off and then have time with my true self. And I feel like a lot of these, different things are applied to us and they're applied with a set of meanings that we don't always self-define. And so for me, the big process has been, I guess, self-definition, like, you know, looking at what is projected and taking the agency to say, what will I keep and what will I discard? Um, and a lot of the societal projection I'm choosing to discard. Yeah, I guess you get to think about what's meaningful for yourself versus like, you know, society can say all these things about what it means to be Black or what it means to be a man or what it means to be any one of these, categorized identities. And most of the time that stuff is like, useful for selling things to us, not necessarily so useful in terms of understanding your true self. And so, it's a really personal and specific process, I guess. I don't have answers for a generalized like what it means to be Black. I can't ever say that because we're not, a monolith. But for me, I'm thankful to have the time to make my art because that is a meditative time where I get to be with myself and I get to strip away all those layers and I get to see what's left, see what remains. And a lot of the times, like, what remains is joy. You know, all of this, you know, all these terrible things have been, I mean, all of the world's greatest atrocities have been enacted on Black people throughout time. And it will be reasonable to believe that, you know, those things have the power to shape an individual. But what I'm finding is that, you know, everybody, whatever background they come from or whatever experience they come from, what I'm finding for myself and, you know, what the art is helping me understand is that, you know, there's some stuff in you that nobody can take away. There's things that nobody can touch, no matter their greatest effort. So I'm just thankful for that, to know that there's like parts of our being that no matter the projection, it stays true, you know. Mm-hmm. And I guess everybody has to find those things for themselves. And it may not be art, you know, for some people it may be any number of different pursuits. It doesn't necessarily have to be art. But when you get a chance to be totally present with something, it'll reveal things about you that you didn't know about yourself. So I hope that answered your question.
Beyond. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I get a little emotional.
No, we appreciate your vulnerability and just sharing. When we look at your work, we see beautiful work, but it's clear that there is so much more, you know, behind those quilts or behind those paintings, like, you know, what the cathartic feelings that you have when you're creating. And speaking of, you know, the creative process, Basil, I would love to know, because I follow you on Instagram, and I think all of you should go follow him if you haven't already. But it looks like you have a lot of fun in the studio, and I do love to know what it's like when you're creating. You know, what is it like to be in the studio with you?
I guess a typical day, like I'll come, I like to warm up. You know, I like to get limber, so I'll like maybe dance around or do some mobilizing just to get my, you know, joints loosened up and get my body ready. Cause it's like, I like to work on the floor, even if it's a day where I'm behind the machine for 6 hours, just, you know, making like this, you know, patchwork. I enjoy doing it.
You know, what's next? What are you working on? What is, you know, what's on the horizon? And we would love to know.
Yeah, the horizon is exciting. And I think part of why I'm so emotional today is because they just made the announcement. So I'm one of this year's United States Artist Fellows. It's like my first national award.
Wow, congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, wow.
And then I got a lot of news. I mean, I'll give y'all a little bit. So I just, on the 29th, so just a few days ago, I opened a solo show in the Canary Islands at a gallery called Galleria Leyendecker. And that's my first time. It's my first solo show of my collage work. So I'm really excited about that. And I will be showing this body of work soon. I can't like announce where yet, but there's a show in the pipeline for this work that I'm working on now, the new quilt work. And I'm really excited to share that. So there's shows. I guess I can mention this is like towards the end of the year. I have a show in Sweden with a gallery called Carl Castiel. So I'm excited. I mean, there's like more international opportunities coming. And so, you know, my prayers are up for when I get my first museum show. So that's what I'm manifesting for the horizon.
Right, well, we are right there with you manifesting that, but it sounds like you right now have your hands full with some really incredible opportunities. We cannot wait to follow along to see what's next, and we wish you all the best. And we're so appreciative and grateful that we could connect and learn more about what you do and the incredible art that you make.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been a lot of fun. And I mean, we could talk all day. I'm not going to take all your time, but I appreciate getting to connect. And I hope that this is just the beginning. So
absolutely. Let's do this again for sure.
Here we are, Location Luxe. I'm your host, Alan Canas, and here in Season 1, we'll be focused on what we're calling the Great Lifestyle Migration. On each episode, I'll be right here in San Francisco, Silicon Valley. Over the last few decades, we've witnessed a great migration for employment and technology development. As such, the need and demand for homes has been among the highest in the country. These migration choices are giving people an extraordinary opportunity to explore new locations, amenities, and lifestyle options. And that's why we're here. Location Luxe. This week, I am so excited to welcome Paul Benson, who is not only a founder of Realm, but also a top real estate agent in Park City, Utah. Paul, I know you have been so busy. We've been trying to get you onto the show. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for the invitation. My pleasure.
And you know what, Paul? I know that Park City, Utah is so much more than a destination location. It's a beautiful lifestyle. You must tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your business.
Oh, absolutely. Back in 2004, I was living in Newport Beach and had taken a vacation to Park City. And I'm from the Northeast. I grew up in Killington, Vermont. So skiing, biking, the mountains, definitely my background. I love mountain biking. I love road biking. I love just getting up in the mountains and you know, the air and the views. And it's a great way to exercise. And it is definitely a place where you can live and have that lifestyle of the outdoors. But, you know, for most of my career here, I actually had a ski and ski out office. So, you know, I could do 6 or 7 runs before 10 a.m. and get back to work. You know, business-wise, I've been in the top 3 or number 1 many years over the last 15 years for the state of Utah. And, you know, my business has really grown into what I would say my specialty is big ski homes, ranches that are more for the gentleman rancher moving here to really have that experience for the first time, or just epic collector properties, you know, the super luxury lifestyle type properties. That's what I specialize in, and that's where I've really created my career.
Well, whenever I think of Park City, Utah, I always think of Paul Benson and number 1. So. And Paul, let's talk about the seasonal activities. I know there are so many with Park City. Tell us a little bit about those.
Sure. You know, I think originally when I moved here, I felt like the majority of everyone I met moved here or actually was introduced to Park City because of skiing. You know, but over the years, that's kind of migrated into whether you're snowmobiling or ice fishing or skate skiing or cross-country skiing. You know, now it's kind of riding your fat tire mountain bikes during the winter. You know, the winter sports are still there, but really what actually caused us to move here is usually the summers. We have epic golf. You know, we have absolutely some of the country's top golf courses here by Pete Dye, Jack Nicklaus, and all the amazing Mark O'Meara, amazing designers. So very quietly, the professional golfers know us very well. Our fly fishing is absolutely world class. We're a destination sport for mountain biking. We actually have a lot of tourists now that come here just to mountain bike. Our cycling, you know, we have so many miles of trails without actually being on a main road specifically for cyclists. But when you do get on a road, you know, these are mountain roads. So the traffic is not that much and the shoulders are pretty wide. So whatever it is you're really craving outdoor-wise, we have it.
It's amazing how much Park City has to offer. And Paul, tell us a little bit about the culture. What is the downtown like? The restaurants, the resorts? What can people expect?
You know, I would say Park City really tried to kind of retain that silver mining theme. We were kind of that's where Park City put itself on the map back in the day was our silver mines. And so there's a lot of that heritage and respect paid to really the history of what founded Park City. But now what I would say is the core is certainly Main Street. Main Street goes a little over a mile, and it's all shops, art galleries, restaurants, outdoor dining this time of year. It really is kind of that centerpiece where whether you want to bike in for a meal or ski in for a meal and then ski back out, Main Street can make that happen.
Can you tell us a little bit about the schools? What's going on with the schools in Park City?
Oh, absolutely. Our schools are regularly top 100 in the country. So our school system is a reason people move to Park City. They really want to have their children in a school system that it really promotes not only the great sports. We're known for some of our, whether it's the Park City football team or hockey team, but also our film studios. Sundance Film Festival being here with the Robert Redford influence. Our school systems have a lot of filmmaking influence as well, which is interesting. But, we're small enough that you really can have that kind of intimate environment, but we're still big enough that we have the funding to really have amazing schools. Now, this year, it did get more complicated, with the migration coming in. We had 3 times the amount of students enroll on day one than we ever have in the past. And,
Wow.
Being in a small town with labor shortages everywhere with the economic boom suddenly, it's very hard to hire the teachers. So, it's a good challenge, but that's one of our challenges right now is keeping up with the growth.
And Paul, you have some of the most amazing properties in Park City. Would you mind telling us about the architectural design styles and options that people have when moving to Park City, Utah?
Absolutely. I think like most towns, we're all over the board, but I'd say the goal is that overused word mountain modern. But what does that mean, mountain modern? In Park City, what it means is something that has kind of the colors of the area around. Definitely has a lot of glass to take in the views and the wildlife. We definitely move here wanting to see wildlife in most cases, and so to have those views and have those wildlife and have that kind of indoor-outdoor experience, the more indoor-outdoor living that you have, but still the simplicity without kind of bringing in the flash that maybe you'd see in other markets. We definitely toned down the flash.
Paul, would you mind sharing with us what can one expect in regards to weather? What is the weather like seasonally?
Another reason you move here. I think there's this myth that we must be really cold, and I always get this, what are your summers like? And we actually have 331 days a year of sunshine. Our winters are mild. Yes, we get a lot of snow, but it's not uncommon to be able to ski in a light jacket or even a sweater, unlike the Northeast skiing. So it's very mild winters.
How are people commuting in and out of Park City with the new airport?
We've always been a commuter city quietly. I remember first moving here realizing just how many Hollywood workers, whether it was stuntmen or film crew or actors, would commute back and forth, and this was their full-time home. But that's really evolved with the tech boom. We call it Silicon Slopes, and it's become more than a slogan. It is a real everyday thing we're dealing with, where groups of people are moving here at once. For a company relocating in the tech world. So, our airports now, we do have commuters from Singapore on a weekly basis, from New York on a weekly basis. So we're certainly seeing more international travel than we've ever seen.
And Paul, why would you say most people are migrating to Park City?
Quality of life. I think obviously the pandemic got into people's heads. I kind of phase it now that I've looked back because we've done so much business. We're already booming, but we really went up exponentially. And, the phases were obviously people early on in the pandemic were looking for more space, and we have the trails and obviously bigger homes, and they're more spaced out. And so we attracted buyers certainly in that moment. But somewhere in the middle of that pandemic, the work from home became a reality that it wasn't temporary. Having the ability to create more memories, Park City is really that kind of a destination.
You know, that's very well said. I agree with you 100%. Paul, could you share with us a little bit about what's going on with the property taxes?
Yes, our property taxes, I would say, are also a reason people move here. You know, in general, Utah has very low income tax, around the 4% range. And then when you look at purchasing a property, it's really broken down two ways. It's either 1% of the general value, which is kind of averaged in the community, so it's not even what you pay. But if you live here and call it a full-time residence, or you move here, call it a full-time residence, you only pay half of that. So for example, on a $5 million home, it's pretty common to be paying around $20,000 to $25,000 a year for taxes, which is pretty unheard of in today's world.
Right. Would you please tell us the various price points that there actually are in Park City?
Absolutely. You know, I think we're probably more balanced than the other resorts that I've spent time in. I've certainly spent my fair share of time in Vail, Aspen, Jackson, Telluride, Sun Valley, own offices in majority of those cities. And I'd say Park City to me is still maybe the most balanced, where you have entry-level condos in that $300,000 to $500,000 price point, kind of on the outskirts of town. You have entry-level ski homes in that $5 million price point. But you can still go find a single-family home on a beautiful flat street, well under $2 million, in a great school district, kind of walking distance to the trails, and you know, really all over the board. Our low on the market today for a single family home in Park City is about 1.2, and our high today is 38 million.
Paul, I ask every person that comes on the show this question: what is your favorite buyer story?
You know, I would say I certainly have a few. I would say my favorite buyer story is a buyer that purchased a home. I met this buyer at a golf course that I was doing an event in Lake Tahoe. He saw a video that we had for a $35 million home, and said he had to have it, and bought it sight unseen, had never seen the home, closed on it 5 days later. He flew in at the last minute. He said, before I see the home, I need to get some ski supplies. So his two jets landed around 1 in the morning, had to open the local ski shop for him, and they were very accommodating for he and his family. So around 2:30 in the morning, we got him all loaded up with new gear, and then kind of took the entourage to see his home for the first time. So he walked in it for about 15 minutes and said, "This is great, perfect, just what I wanted. Thanks, Paul." So I would say that was a pretty unique story. A lot of fun.
That is a good one. That's a terrific story. Paul, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Location Luxe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey everybody, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design, and welcome to another inspiring episode of DesignTV. Today we are live with our friends at the NKBA, love them, and our friends at Monogram, and we're talking health and wellness in the kitchen and health and wellness in our lives. With me today is my good friend, the queen of the NKBA, Susie Williford, EVP and Chief Strategy Officer. And we also have Julie Burns, the Executive Director of Monogram. And we have Richard Aneskovich, better known to all as Richard A to Z. Hi guys, how's everybody doing?
Hi, Cindy.
Great.
So good to be
Cindy.
with you.
I know, it's so great to see you. Susie, we've been talking about health and wellness, but it really is so infiltrating in all of our lives in every aspect, and certainly in the kitchen and bath, right?
Absolutely. It's really taken, I think, a lot of it has to do with the pandemic. The rest of it has to do with the fact that we're in our kitchen so much more now. So we're much more aware of what that is. And the design community, people like Richard has really pushed it forward, and Monogram has come up with so many great new products. Just kind of, I think it is here to stay, and it's something we are all excited about knowing more about.
Yeah, and what'll be nice today is that we have the designer perspective, the manufacturer perspective, and then you as the industry leader. So Richard, I do want to start with you. You were highlighted as a 2019 Kitchen and Bath Business Person of the Year, also because of that kind of mix of your creative talents and your scent for business, which is really great. And now I understand you've added creative director of Monogram to your ever-growing list of achievements. So Richard, first of all, congratulations, and tell us about it.
Thank you so much. I mean, it truly is a dream role and something I'm very grateful to, frankly, be a part of. My relationship with Monogram Appliances has grown very organically through time. About 5 years ago, I attended a training out of their Chicago showroom and just immediately connected with the team there on a deeper level. They were very intrigued with my involvement in the industry and my passion for design. And so I started developing continuing education courses with the team, and then naturally started working on design concepts for different displays. And we've had a lot of success with that through the years. The last 2 years, 2019 and 2020, winning Best in Show at KBIS. For our beautiful booths and displays. We are thrilled to also be bringing online for 2022 some really special things. So you'll have to tune into that. But ultimately, all this has led me to the opportunity of being appointed creative director. And truly, I can't say enough great things of just how wonderful this team is, first and foremost, really passionate and collaborative. And I think there's just such a beautiful synergy that's something that just naturally excites me. And we have a lot of really great things in the pipeline coming from Monogram. That's
great. Julie, it must be like a really important and such a positive thing to have, not only Richard, who is, award winning, but also somebody right there who every day is talking to clients, who's working on kitchen and bath projects, really helps you to kind of figure out what the next thing should be.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. I mean, we are honestly super honored to be able to have Richard. I mean, he's incredibly talented. And like he said earlier, there was a lot of really nice synergy and chemistry that, we had with Richard. And so I think it's a partnership made in heaven. But I think, what's really great is that, our design teams in collaboration with Richard, we always are able to understand what's going on, what kind of trends are happening, and frankly, how our designers and our consumers really using product so that we can develop features and product and everything else that people are going to love, but frankly, that they'll really use. And it will be intuitive as a part of the design.
Right. And Susie, that is what you're always looking at too. I know as an industry leader, interior design, we're always looking at what does the designer want and need from his clients? How can the manufacturer collaborate in the best way possible to get it out to market?
Yeah, and then how to display it and get it, first of all, Monogram and the GE family has been such a wonderful supporter of our show for so many years.
Yeah.
And it was really fun for me to go to their booth in 19 and 20 and see what Richard had designed. I even got to meet his parents. It was very exciting
Oh, that's
because
nice.
here's the deal. Richard was one of our original 30 under 30s. And so this is a guy who has, you know, first of all, he's so easy to deal with, but secondly, he's intuitive. He knows what the market wants. He has the clientele to where he can try the really cool things and then translate that for everybody. It's been a real thrill to watch him and to have him help Monogram come along with the next line of products that are going to help it.
Let's go kind of macro, and then, because I know, Julie, you have a lot of specifics in terms of things that you're doing, and we want to hear all about it. But let's think about the kitchen right now. One thing that I love about our industry is that, yes, the pandemic sort of accelerated things, but a lot of good things were happening before that. And, you know, health and wellness was definitely on our radar. And Richard, you had a beautiful kitchen that you finished in Connecticut that sort of represents what we're talking about today. And it was before the pandemic.
Yes, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful Connecticut kitchen that is a Monogram project, specifically featuring our statement collection. And, you know, when we think of kind of some of those attributes of what were found in that kitchen, you know, a contemporary kitchen today, and we say contemporary in the sense of modern day, right, is much more of a living room space. We have to think about it more dynamically. It's not that utilitarian space it strictly once was in the past. So we have to be realistic about that. And I always start with the foundational principles of architecture and natural light. Think about a good living room space. You want a lot of beautiful natural light. It's how we respond as humans. You know, light affects our mood, and we have to take that into a critical consideration in such an active work zone and, you know, lifestyle space. Thinking about, you know, we're gone are the days of the strictly run a base cabinets, run a wall cabinets, the one little window with a sink right under it, right? We've evolved from that. So we want to think about as much natural light pouring into the space, tall, heightened ceilings, you know, again, architectural elements that really just bring the space to life. These are all strong attributes that we desire in a luxury kitchen space. And then just being really smart about the overall space plan and function, because again, with the different dynamics happening in a kitchen, you know, we have to be thinking about, is this now our new office space? Is this now the, you know, the school table? Like, these are all realities that we're facing, that we need to be smart about. How do they integrate into this this work zone? And so we worked on this kitchen in Connecticut. You'll see all of these attributes, and to your point, they're all things that we've known for some time. Just the pandemic, frankly, just further magnified it, right? And called more attention to these realities.
Yeah, and I like what you said in the beginning, because it's like the kitchen is a living space now. And definitely when you look at the images of this project, it reflects that. I love that the cabinetry looks like furniture in the room. It feels eclectic. And then there's a lot of technology, though. I mean, it's a very friendly kitchen with a lot of technology in it. So let's talk about some of the appliances. I know there's ovens and steam ovens. Tell us a little bit about all the Monogram appliances.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think, you know, when we think about wellness and how do we incorporate that into some of our appliances, you know, there's probably two real veins in which you'll see that appear. And Cindy, you said one of them, right? Technology. And I would say the other is just around some of the features. So from a technology point of view, I mean, what we've thought about is how can we make your life so much easier in that, you know, you can now, downloading the app and it's Wi-Fi enabled with your product, you can go ahead and preheat your oven when you're on your way back from the office to home. And so that cuts, you know, some time. So it's going to allow you to say, you know what, I can stay on plan. I can stay on my diet. I can, you know, do what I need to do for a healthy living because I'm saving some time. So it's going to remove that resistance to just stop in and pick something up really quick, and just, you know, derail your whole plan. I think from a features perspective, I mean, there's several things that we've come out recently with, such as air fry. And so air fry is probably one of my favorites in that it allows you to be able to have your indulgent, crispy fried food, but it removes all of the other, not all of the calories, but probably 70 to 80% of your calories that you would have just by dipping them in oil and cooking them. And so that's a really great way of being able to say, I have something that can do more than just roast and bake and even, steaming vegetables. You mentioned that earlier too. So you can steam, and it's a much healthier way of being able to consume your food.
Richard, did you ever expect, think back a couple decades, that you would be putting steaming ovens in a kitchen? It's like we've come a long way, right?
Totally. I mean, I think that's the beauty of technology. The reality is it's going to change tomorrow too. We just don't maybe know what that is. It's ever evolving. You can think of something as simple as the smartphone. I mean, what came into the market as an inaccessible luxury item transformed the world and is now something we can't live our lives without. So the beauty of appliances is they are technology driven. And Monogram stands on the heritage of GE and a beautiful foundational, fundamentals of technology. And, we're really proud of that in the way that we not only are the products represented today, but I can promise you again, there's a lot of really interesting things coming in the future.
Yeah. The other thing that I remember in that kitchen that was pretty fabulous was that you tiled everything all the way up. And
Yes.
this idea of how do we keep things clean? How do we even clean our appliances? How are we less worried about germs?
Sure.
And this is a big issue. And again, it represented so well in that kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, we did that twofold. One, from the proportional standpoint, the walls are just tall surface areas, and we needed to cover them to make it more visually interesting. So we wanted a textural element, and I love the idea of tile for its cleanability. So it not only provided kind of this beauty and detail, but there was a practicality to it. Added the library rail to further enhance it. Added great accessibility to our tall ceilings. So there's a lot of really wonderful details in that space that it's truly a luxury kitchen, but the beauty of it is it's very approachable. It's not ostentatious. It's not over the top, right? It's really understated and has a really clean line to it. And I think that's, very desirable to the consumer today.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of play in this show, by the way. It's a gorgeous kitchen. But Julie, also from your standpoint, in terms of being able to keep the appliances clean, which is a big issue. We're around food is messy, and we're always cleaning up our appliances. What are some of the efficiencies just in terms of keeping things clean?
Yeah. So I think, certainly during the pandemic, right? I mean, everybody wanted something to be able to make sure that we're keeping our environment clean. And I think from I'll talk specifically probably about dishwashers, is that, Dish has a sanitize, function on it. And that, it's always been there to some extent, but it became a whole lot more important as you started thinking about, microban and all of the other things. And so you realize that all of the things that you needed to sanitize. So Dish worked really well. I think one of the things that's kind of interesting as well is that we have bottle jets in our dishwashers. And so we start thinking about some of the things that we do, such as making smoothies. And we know that it gets really kind of caked into the glass. And so the bottle jets really it allows for all of that stuff that gets caked onto the side to actually be removed. And that way you feel really reassured that it's clean.
I love that, because that is so true. I mean, sometimes we think that we're the only ones who have these problems, but we're not. I mean, Susie just finished her own kitchen, right? Renovating your own kitchen.
I did.
What's it like to be in a new kitchen? How does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel wonderful. I mean, it's all the surfaces are easier to clean. I mean, that was something I was thinking about. I was thinking about this when you were talking. When I go to buy cleaners now, I look for things that are going to remove 99.9% of the germs, which I've never probably even thought about before. And I was thinking as Julie was talking, a lot of these products that Monogram has have either been there, like the sanitary cycle, or they've already been in development, because wellness and safety has been a priority of the manufacturing community for a while. I know it has been with Monogram. What the pandemic has done has literally ensured the success of these products. It's ensured it because now we have all become cognizant of the importance, not just during the pandemic, but cold season, flu season, whatever, even like chicken, I mean, all of these things are very important, and those products are either being developed or have been there. And I think consumer awareness and design awareness has become a priority that's going to keep the world healthier and safer. And that ensures a better quality of life, because there's nothing worse than feeling bad.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, Susie, too, because when, a lot of times designers are trying to get a client somewhere, push them forward, make them think about things in a different way. And actually the pandemic has made all those things a reality. So right, Richard? I mean, you may have been, pushing for certain types of appliances or certain attributes that now a client is raising their hand and saying, I'm worried about this. How can you help me fix this problem? But you were worried about it long before they were, and the pandemic.
Right.
Further to your point too, with everyone kind of being at home and, frankly, using those spaces in way much more than ever before, right? Just given the amount of time that's been spent at home. The products, from a technology standpoint, there's been a lot of work done to help people make things more precise and from a precision standpoint as well. So the food is actually more successful in the actual, the process and the cooking. And there's a lot of great technology that we have on that end that, to your point, has been, in the works for some time, but the pandemic put a further spotlight on that of like, hey, this is an amazing value add. And that's really important. Something as simple as our Heston Q, it's actually cookware that's Bluetooth enabled that connects to either your induction top or our dual fuel range. And literally, as you're cooking on this, we'll pull up recipes and responds to the cookware on your cooktop. I mean, the precision of heat and temperature is really remarkable because it's helping you, be chef inspired and really guide you through that process so that the meal is as successful as possible.
Yeah, Julie, I want to talk to you about this a little bit. So, okay, let's be real. So most of us have been in our house for a year and a half. We look really good waist up, but many of us who are working, round the clock on Zooms, it has definitely affected a little bit extra in the waistline, even though we want to be healthy and, and well. And I know you guys are worried about that, and it will be key. It will continue to trend for all of us. So tell us what Monogram has been thinking about.
I think there's a couple of things. I think, we have the benefit of having some amazing chefs that are on staff. So we have, chefs that are doing nothing but just constantly thinking about what kind of recipes can we help? What can we do in partnership with our technology team to integrate those recipes into some of the precision things that Richard was talking about? And so how we can continue to be healthy in that way. So we've got some of those chef inspired, recipes, and, a lot of those things being like, how do you do something if you're working and it's at 20 minutes, you've got 20 minutes to do, but you want something that's healthy. And so our 5-in-1 is a perfect example of where you can take steam and speed together, both of which you would never think, of something to be able to pour some of your recipes, but you can do that. And so you can have fresh vegetables that are going to be done really quickly. You can also do a chicken really quickly in our speed oven. So that cuts down in your time. And the preciseness is just going to make sure that you're just kind of maintaining all of the temperature. I think the other thing is that, as we think about the precision, and I'm just going to tell you guys a really quick story. When Richard was talking about that precision in some of the burners and that collaboration with Heston Q, with our professional range, we have what we call a true temp burner. And so it's a gas burner, but it talks to the Heston Q pan. And so what happens is that it's going to actually modulate that gas flame and keep it at a constant temperature. So what that really means, and I'm going to say for me personally, I love scallops. It is one of those dishes that I absolutely will always order at a restaurant. I try to do it at home, and I kid you not, they always end up like rubber.
Right, right.
And so with our professional range, with the True Temp and with that Heston Q pan, what it's going to do is that I'm able to go ahead, put scallops in. It knows that I have scallops, and it will tell me exactly when I need to flip them. So it's always going to be the perfect sear and perfect scallop. So then no more rubber scallops.
I love that. That's wait, Susie, because Susie was nodding her head. I mean, I love scallops. I always order them at restaurants. I will never cook them at home, right, Susie?
They're always like rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
So I think, yeah.
Julie, I have the same problem with shrimp. You know, my shrimp and my scallops both end up like rubber.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of, when we think about, the chefs developing recipes and working with our technology and our product teams, that's what it is we want to be able to give confidence to our owners that you can do all of these amazing things at, restaurant quality, luxury quality things at home, and kind of give you the confidence that you can do it. That we'll take some of the, all of that training that our chefs have to go through to get things just quite right. We can make it a whole lot easier and give you some confidence.
And Richard, also with your clients, so I'm sure you're in the middle of designing more kitchens as we speak. Your
Very
clients
much so.
do want, right? They want healthy living, right?
100%. Yeah, it's a common conversation. I mean, I have two projects that immediately come to mind. You're talking about kind of the pandemic waistline or whatnot. I literally had a conversation with my client about healthy snacking. Like, it's just something they love to snack, but it's like, hey, how can you help me make smart choices? So, our ovens have dehydrate capabilities. So that's really, super smart of like doing health, fresh things in the dehydrate mode. And then, as Julie mentioned earlier, air fry. I mean, game changer, because we all love a crunchy, good fried item, but, air fry has really changed the game there. Another thing that's really interesting in that kind of health and wellness side is I actually have a client right now at our showroom in Nashville, Design Galleria Kitchen and Bath Studio, where they're very particular and from a health standpoint, sensitive to off-gassing. And we have to be realistic that new manufactured products do off-gas, right? And that's something that can affect someone's health, specifically cabinetry, the way that they're finished. So we're very fortunate to work with some very notable high-end manufacturers who take that very seriously. And for this specific project, actually, this kitchen will be in a warehouse fully off-gassing before it will ever step foot into that client's home.
And don't you think, this is such a wonderful time to actually have clients who are in some ways helping you become a better designer? I give you an example. I have a really great designer friend who only likes to work in stone, only likes to work in stone and slabs, and will go all over the world to get the right stone slab. And he has clients now who are saying, like, I want to look at porcelain because of the way it, because of germs, because of keeping things clean. And
Sure.
He was telling me that it like kind of opened his eyes in a way from only being like a stone, snob kind of thing.
Right.
And he said the off-gassing of cabinets.
Yes. I mean, something to your point, we think technology, immediately think electronics, right? But technology goes a lot further than that. It's actually, how products are manufactured as well. Technology has been so advanced in manufactured products that things like a porcelain countertop, or one of my favorites, Decked In by Cosentino, I mean, the imagery on them is next level, where it truly can convey a natural stone aesthetic. So, those are game changers where it's not just the real McCoy. There's other things out there that are manufactured that we have to, as a mass, kind of from the mass consumer lens, be a little bit more open to those ideas and not just shut something down immediately because we think it's lesser than because it's manufactured, right? I mean, there's variables there, and we need to do our due diligence to make sure that we are working with the best products.
Yeah, and Susie, I mean, you're hearing it in the marketplace as well, right? And isn't it interesting how our lives and design just keeps evolving?
Absolutely. I think back to when I started in this industry, and people called it design, but today people would laugh at what people thought about as design, because design was just really more about what pillows and what wallpaper you were going to use. And today design is not only the style and the beauty of it, but it's also the function and the quality and the health benefits. And Richard's so right talking about VOCs and off-gassing and having the understanding, proper ventilation in your kitchen. You know, like your hoods do a wonderful job of pulling out those things that we breathe in that, and my husband was, you know, long story, but and off-gassing is a whole nother thing, but he got mercury poisoning one time and has always been sensitive since then. So we're very, very cognizant of what paints we use, what carpets we use, because we can't throw him into a mess. And what's funny about that is everybody's got a sensitivity level. And so how we put our kitchens together and what we utilize are important. And what appliances we have that we make sure are using the right ventilation and that they're putting things together, whether you are a master cook or chef, or whether you just do food assembly, it doesn't matter. I mean, some people order those wonderful meals that come pre-mixed, but they can go in your steam oven or your air fryer and it can be a healthier choice.
Exactly, exactly. Julie, it's an exciting time for a company like Monogram, and there's so much that is being developed. What are the things, it can almost be overwhelming also for a client, right? So what are, like, do you have a few like highlights as like a takeaway for our design community to think about so that they can share with their client?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Here's what I would say is that, I think when you're making a decision, I think one is decide what it is really important for you, right? And so start to build your kitchen and what it is that you want and what kind of functionality you want out of that. I think oftentimes, the range is is kind of the crown jewel and is the one that is there. It's the statement piece. No pun intended. So so is that, what's going to be important? And so I think there's also, when you think about your cooking and in your kitchen, is it going to be gas because you want to be able to have that flame, you want to be able to have some of that, or is it frankly even induction? You want the precision and the preciseness and frankly maybe even the safety that comes with induction. So I think really kind of thinking about what is going to be most important to you, narrow in on that, and that is going to be really helpful in terms of deciding what's going to work and what's not going to work for your family. Because you're right, it can be overwhelming. You start looking at all the benefits and all the features, but we've tried to engineer ours so that, they're going to be intuitive, but also it's not going to be over featured where it's going to be more than what you actually need.
Yeah, and Richard, are you finding that as well with your clients? I mean, it's fantastic that you work with Monogram, so you can really kind of train them how to use their kitchen.
For sure. I mean, I think, to Susie's earlier point, design is a lot more dynamic where, we're having to really be technical and, dive into it on a multifaceted level. But to Julie's point too, I think, when it comes down to appliance selection, health and wellness, I really stress the lifestyle aspect. And I really try to understand more how my client lives in their day-to-day and propose that appliance package to them based on, their lifestyle attribute.
That's a perfect way to wrap it up, because I think that there are so many of your clients that maybe have never spent the time in their homes and their kitchens and baths the way that they are now. And you really get to know them in a much deeper level and can, make their spaces ones that are healthier and being well in the space, which is such an exciting thing. I mean, who would have thunk it that we would be promoting this? I don't know that in our lifetime we all would have realized that it would be the best thing to be talking about. So I'm really happy with where the industry is going, and I know you are too, Susie. Right, as a kitchen bath industry, it's such a positive.
It is, and I think the industry as a whole is very responsible.
Yeah.
I think that we've taken it all seriously, delivering the best products that we can across the board. I think that you know, we are much more global than we ever were before. And I think that a lot of good ideas are coming from all over the world, and we're embracing them. Very proud of it. The other thing is, you know, our show, people get to come and, you know, I remember last year I went into the last year, I always forget that 2021 was canceled.
Yeah.
2020, in 2020, I went to the Monogram booth. I learned so much. You know, I mean, I've been around a long time. I walked away with a renewed spirit for cooking. Richard was kind enough to show me a lot of the really cool things. And it just makes me thrilled that we're going to be able to come together. I just got back from Orlando. Plans are going big time. It's going to be great. And so, you know, just to be able to walk in those booths and see those friendly faces and be able to touch the product is really important.
Susie, everyone's going to be so happy to be back together. Julie, you're such an amazing, energetic, spirited, passionate representative for Monogram. I love that. I love that we're able to talk today. I need the air fryer. I need the steam oven. I need some recipes. I need all of that. And Richard, thank you so much for what you're doing for our industry and for your clients. It really matters. It really makes a difference. I'm happy about your collaboration. So big love and hugs to all of you with amazing conversation on health and wellness in the kitchen and health and wellness in our lives. Susie, Julie, Richard, big thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
It's been great.
See you all.